It's finally time. After all this, maybe the YouTube gods will allow me to give the people what they want. Alright, well you can't say I didn't try. Hello everybody, I'm Garrulous64, and Sonic 2 for the Game Gear and Master System is the real Sonic 2 because it came out before the Genesis version. Sorry, I don't make the rules. When I saw people commenting on the last 8-bit Sonic videos saying things like, Sonic 2 is worse, get ready, or just wait till you get to Sonic 2, it didn't paint the best picture of what I was getting myself into. Regardless of that, I set off to do a handheld Sonic retrospective, and I intend to deliver on that. As I popped the game in my trusty Game Gear, and as soon as the title screen popped up, much like venturing into any YouTube video's comment section, except mine, you guys are all great, I knew I was about to subject myself to something horrific. I mean, look at that right there. Animal cruelty is horrific. Eggman needs to be stopped immediately. I actually regret playing this game, and it honestly is some of the worst the series has to offer in my opinion, in terms of platformers at least, and it really makes me appreciate Genesis Sonic 2, even though I'm not really a huge fan of that either. This time around, I elected to start with the Game Gear version, since people seem to be especially annoyed with that one, so why not get the worst out of the way first? Now, obviously, the first drawback is that the screen size has a huge decrease from that of the Master System version, and while in 8-bit Sonic 1, this wasn't a huge problem, and in some cases even made the game easier, here it adds a slew of new issues, since they didn't really diverge much from the Master System version when they made this port. I'll definitely be bringing that up shortly, but aside from that, the game plays pretty similarly to the first one. Now, let's dig our own graves, shall we? First up, it's Underground Zone. Yeah, that's like the exact opposite of a hill. Looks like whoever designed this game hadn't yet been infected by the hill curse that's plagued the rest of the Sonic devs. Regardless of how I feel about this game, one thing I really liked was the special art they included for each zone. I'm not sure why they put Tails in all these since he's basically the Princess Peach of this game, but little details like this can really only help the game. Sonic 2's first impression isn't a great one. Imagine if Sonic 1 had started with Marble Zone, and you've pretty much got the idea. Spikes fall from the ceiling, sometimes you see them, sometimes you don't. There's spring platforming around lava that you will fall into if you haven't played the game before, and plenty of secret passages that hide goodies for you to collect. Right about here is where I noticed that you don't have the spin dash despite it being introduced in the Genesis version of Sonic 2. But, you know, honestly, it really wouldn't have done too much for the game overall, it's just a small nitpick. Sonic also has the chance to ride minecarts in this level, vindicating the claims of the zone's title card. I didn't doubt you for a second. This is another trial and error type gimmick where sometimes they want you to jump out of the cart before the track ends, or else you'll be in for a world of hurt, and other times it doesn't really matter unless you're a speedrunner, in which case, that is a reset. In the third act, I was starting to wonder where all the hatred for this game was coming from. What I'd played so far hadn't been stellar, but it also wasn't unforgivable, but it was at this moment that the fun began. After what marks the first time Robotnik saves Sonic from a fiery fate, Nemesis goals right there, he makes you wish you'd been baked at 450 till crust golden brown. First boss is this little chompy guy that I can only compare to those little antlion fellas from Terraria, and I guess real life too, if you're gonna be a stickler about it. Right from the start of this fight, it's incredibly apparent that there's something wrong with the slopes of this version of the game. Rolling down hills prior to this didn't feel bad, but apparently once you're moving down a hill, Sonic will do everything in his power to stop existing, and there's not much you can do about it. After a handful of deaths that I didn't feel were my fault, I decided to boot up the Game Genie, that way I had infinite lives, and you may call it cheating, but I call it justice. I realized after this that I hadn't seen any Chaos Emeralds yet either, and after doing a quick search to find out how to access the special stages, I discovered that the Emeralds are once again sitting around for any average Joe to find. If that average Joe knows exactly where they are and is willing to make a series of annoyingly precise jumps, lest he get locked out of obtaining said jewel without taking an intentional death. Just wanted to go on record here, there have been a lot of methods for unlocking these things over the years, and very few of them have actually been fun or fair for first-time players. Call me a casual if you will, but I still think Sonic Rush did it best, followed closely by Sonic 3 and Sonic Mania. After coming to terms with how irritating it would be to collect the 6 all-powerful ring pops, it was time for a rematch with the Egg Antlion. I found that the best strategy is to just stand in place and jump when the explosive bowling balls get close to you. But every time I would look to see if the cretin was dead, it wouldn't be, and then it would hit me with a surprise strike with one of its faster-moving projectiles. Then to top it off at the very end, Robotnik runs out of patience and tries to rush you, and I'll admit it did get me the first time, again, because there was just a slight pause between the last bowling ball and him, so I thought the fight was over. Yep, seems like they're not above stuff like that, and this is only the first zone. Zone 2 is Sky High Zone, and when I covered a Mania mod based on the stage, I made a weed joke, which was a really low-hanging fruit, or a sky-high one, depending on who you ask. It's almost like comedy is subjective or something. Act 1 doesn't even have anything to talk about, it goes by in the blink of an eye, but Act 2 is where the real meat begins, and by meat, I mean another Chaos Emerald thrown into an asinine location. Seriously, blink and you'll miss it. I wasn't even sure if I collected the thing, since I wasn't listening closely to the game audio. Boss 2 is this ostrich-looking thing that gets mad at you because you destroyed its children, and this got me wondering if Robotnik programmed maternal instincts into this thing, or if the robot was just totally innocent in all this, and I was the monster the entire time. Then I stopped pondering and made sure the bird would never repeatedly drink water ever again. Now, did someone order a water level? No? Well, you're gonna have to take it anyway, or else it'll go to waste, and we can't have that, now can we? 9 times out of 10, I hate water levels, and wouldn't you know it, this is one of those 9 times. The first act looks terrible. I don't know why they did the water like this when the second act looks totally fine. Must have been something to do with limitations regarding having a level that's only partially underwater versus a level that's entirely underwater, but then again, they made Labyrinth Zone look just fine in the last game, so I've got my doubts. Speaking of Act 2, they included possibly one of the most irritating bits in Sonic history here. I know that's a big claim, but just hear me out. Occasionally, you'll jump into these bubbles, and they'll carry you upwards while also providing you with some sweet, sweet oxygen that no doubt smells like a wet hedgehog now that I think about it. That on its own isn't a bad thing, and honestly, it's kind of a fun gimmick, which is why Mania reused it, and this time I'm positive this is where the inspiration comes from. But they couldn't just settle for it being a nice little quick vehicle section. No, they had to add the Tunnel of Torment. A corridor that goes straight up for what feels like 25 years, that's filled with so many cheap obstacles that you'll have tunnel vision for getting through this struggle within minutes of attempting it. All you will know is tunnel by the end of this. And also watch out, because at the top there's a spike ceiling that you can't see coming because of the Game Gear's soon-to-be even smaller screen. Act 3 is once again outside, and apparently you're able to skip Sonic over the water like a stone, which made me experience the illusion of having fun for a moment. But of course, that was then ruined because I flew headfirst into the boss. You're not supposed to have fun in this game apparently, and that just sealed the deal. Giving credit where credit's due, having the sealed balanced Sonic on its nose like a ball is a really cute idea, but aside from that, this boss might be one of the easiest things you come across in this game. I love it in video games when difficulty curves look like a rogue piece of spaghetti that fell off your ladle. Another thing I like about this game is that it's all unique levels. I mean, what are you talking about? There's an S right there, which means it totally isn't the same place as that boring old singular green hill. I mean, seriously, look at them, they're completely different. This stage brings us the banger that would eventually become Sonic CD's You Can Do Anything, and to this day, it remains one of the catchiest songs in the series, and it's only gotten better with every remix they've made of it. Music aside, I'm really neutral in this zone, aside from Act 3, because I'm really wondering who looked at this and was like, oh yeah, that looks great, ship it as is. This part here, I straight up didn't know what to do because no matter how many times I repositioned Sonic in the air, he just hit the spikes anyway, like this was his true fate all along. Just saying, blind jumps are terrible, and the Game Gear made it a lot worse than it needed to be. Gimmick Mountain Zone, love that name by the way, contains, wouldn't you know it, gimmicks. Look, there's one now. This level actually wasn't too bad, probably the least offensive one so far, with its quick platforming challenges and neat aesthetic. I think I'm being a bit softer on this one than the others, since it kinda reminds me of the more mechanical levels from Sonic 1 and 2, and I really don't like those levels, so by comparison, this one is a good time. Aside from this one bout of what I can only assume to be Sonic forgetting he has object permanence, that is. You ride this platform to the top of its track, and there's spikes, so you jump off like any sane person and run to the left. But suddenly, there's no way to progress, and you're stuck. So what happened? Well, you're actually supposed to wait for the platform to come back, and if you go off screen just a teensy weensy bit, yeah, it just kind of vanishes. Yet another problem you could avoid by potentially having played the game before, or perhaps maybe playing on a larger screen. Hint, hint. Oh, and also, I love dying after you already beat the boss. It's my favorite thing to do. And now it's time for the worst part of the game by a landslide. And by that I mean I'd rather be caught in a landslide than play this level again. Scrambled Egg Zone, again, really fun name, but the only thing scrambled after playing this is my brain. Basically, it's a giant maze of tubes that you need to worm your way through by holding certain directions on the D-pad, and it's just trial and error of the level. It doesn't even kill you half the time if you get it wrong. You just gotta do it over and over again until you contemplate becoming a vegan so you never have to think about scrambled eggs ever again. This has gotta be one of the most infuriating levels I've ever experienced in a Sonic game to date. I always tend to wonder when things like this come up, why someone would bother putting it into a game if it isn't fun. And of course, fun is subjective, but who was this for, and have they rethought their lives since asking for this? I wasn't even happy when I finally finished it, I just felt bitter. That's the worst kind of success in my opinion. At least after a tedious crawl through the worst zone of the game, you're met with a very easy boss fight. It's Silver Mecha Metal Robo Sonic, just covering all the bases since I know I'm inevitably going to be corrected on its true name in the comments. If you just keep jumping in this fight, he can't hurt you since he's made of rubber and apparently so is Sonic. Our little friend here then drops the 6th and final Chaos Emerald, but only if you've collected the other 5 before this point. Looks like we're headed towards the good ending. And that actually includes an entire unique level this time around in the form of Crystal Egg Zone, which is some kind of snow globe, maybe? I don't really know what to make of the flying fish, falling stones, spikes, and huge neon cacti. Maybe it's a representation of Robotnik's shattered psyche? I'm no psychiatrist though, so maybe it's just the Egghead's aesthetic. I don't really get this level. It almost feels like a small maze in its second act, but after the nightmare that was Scrambled Egg, it literally does nothing to add or detract from the experience as a whole. The final boss, on the other hand, is a huge joke. Using the same tubes from Scrambled Egg Zone, you can just play a game of whack-a-mole, except this time you live out the mole's perspective. But more specifically, it's the mole's perspective from one of those cartoons where the guy with the hammer has no chance of ever hitting you and you're just popping out of the pipes making faces and blowing raspberries and stuff. It's hilarious. It's a foolproof strategy, and before long, the boss is toast, and apparently so is Eggman since I didn't see him get away from that one. Looks like he's the only scrambled egg now, am I right? Oh, never mind actually, he's right there. And then we get Tails back, and the game ends with one final insult by showing us the game over screen. Nothing like a good ol' insult to injury to end off a playthrough. Or at least it would be the end of the playthrough if there weren't 2 versions of the game. Guess it's time to do all this stuff again, except we can see more of it, and I'm not sure if it was because I knew the levels already or if it was just actually easier, but my second playthrough wasn't quite as bad. I'm thinking it was the experience thing though, because I didn't really have a ton of fun the second playthrough, I just didn't have as many annoying, visceral hatred moments like I did in the first one. This time I elected to go with the bad ending, since the Chaos Emeralds were in the same spots, and maybe it's just better off this way. You get that classic shot of Sonic looking up at the stars and seeing Tails' face, and I know a ton of people in the comments are going to talk about Tails being dead, and I'm going to add on to that and say every single zone title card is something that Sonic will never get to do with Tails since he was too slow to save his buddy. Now that is deserving of a game over screen. Before we wrap up here, I do want to bring attention to yet another PC and Android remake being developed by the same team as the one I talked about in my last 8-bit Sonic video. This version of the game is completely different than the other two. The level design has seen an overhaul, there are brand new gimmicks, and they're going to be overhauling the Chaos Emerald system. They also went ahead and added 7 new playable characters. Overkill? Let's go with variety. And variety is usually a good thing, and good thing here it is. I graduated with an English degree. I think that sentence I just said would have severely wounded my professors. The remake isn't finished yet, by the way. It's only in its second beta, so I didn't sweep through the entire thing for changes this time like I did with the first one, but I did check out all the new characters. Tails can fly, and he has a flight cancel, always a good thing to add to Tails' moveset. Knuckles can glide and climb walls, sort of, but I'm sure it's just because this is still in beta. The website says that Amy has a double jump, but I couldn't get it to work, so I'm thinking that this coming soon tag here was meant for both of her abilities. Mighty has his stomp from Mania, and it even causes rings to fall out of the air, however he cannot avoid spike damage. Ray has his ability to fly from Mania, but here it's been simplified to just pressing one button in a rhythm to ascend. This means if you touch any other direction on the D-pad, he immediately falls, which I'm not a huge fan of. Finally, we have Shadow, who currently only has a spin dash, but will eventually have an air dash as well, and then Metal Sonic, who can fly by holding up on the D-pad and also perform his signature dash move for some nice horizontal momentum. And then Sonic sees the exact same revamps that he had in the first remake. He now has the spin dash and the peel out. Another plus for the remake is the tag system. The characters are paired up on the character select screen, and you're able to switch between the 2 you've chosen with the press of a button in-game. I'm hoping that the full release brings the ability to make your own custom pairs, but for now, this is a really good system. I'm gonna give that one some time before I stream it, but you can find it at the link in the description if you want to check it out for yourself. I gotta say though, it's actually a pretty big toss-up as to which version could be considered the definitive one this time around, since neither the Game Gear or Sega Master System version are that great to begin with, and the remake ends up feeling more like a reimagining than anything. But maybe the remake setting itself so far apart from the others is a good thing. So many people seem to have an adverse reaction to this game, so maybe a reimagining is exactly what we need to get rid of that sour taste that the game left in our mouths. And speaking of sour tastes, maybe we check out this one for real next time. And that's all for this one. I promise you, Sonic Advance 3 for real is coming for real this time, for real, for real. But that's gonna be all for today, so if you like this video and you haven't already, please make sure you subscribe, click the bell, follow my Twitter, and join the Discord to keep up with more Sonic reviews and other things that aren't Sonic reviews, because I do a lot of things. I'd also like to thank my current supporters, who are Luigi Fanman 2, Sonic Channel 182, Sonic Vids YT, Common CJ, Danny Dauber, Mike TGC, Raiden Still Plays, Chaosk, Cosmic Mushroom, Chaotic Mercenary, Ty Little Tech Guy, Jaded Indolent, Jeremy, Lucas Tallman, Mega Traffic Cone, Crystal, and Rob Morrison on Patreon, and of course everyone else who's helping me out by subscribing to the $1 tier. Thank you guys so much for supporting, it really means a lot. If you have any interest in becoming a supporter yourself, go ahead and check out below the video to see the join button to check out all the perks you can get. Alternatively, you can check out the card in the video to see my Patreon where you can see the same perks. Just join the Discord and you get some cool stuff like bloopers episodes, which should be found in the card up there if I did one for this video, because sometimes there aren't any. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.